What's up guys, welcome to this week's patch video. Not a whole lot in this patch, but we'll go over things. The things that were changed are pretty huge changes, so let's just go over that real quick. This week the Knight's free, same thing as always. You get the 650 bling discount if you can get it up to level 15 within the week. I think the levels carry over as well, so if you get it up to level 8 or something, the next time the Knight has a free week, it's still level 8 and you can get up to 15 that time and still get the discount. I think that's how it works, but I'm not really 100% sure. Chargoyle's out. We have a new creature in. I'll go over that in a little bit. So this is where the balancing comes in. These are some pretty huge changes. So totems, there's basically buffs across the board. I'll show off totems again, but basically their health increased by 67%. This might be still a little bit low, but it's definitely a good value that's safe for balancing. This wouldn't ever be OP, but it was the health on totems was a little bit too low because people were still able to jump into a group, auto attack the totem 2 or 3 times, and then continue kiting through the castle. And people would do this and still be able to forward kite to the boss room and kill everything there. So the health increase is nice. The placement size, I actually initially thought that this was going to make the actual totem placement size, like the totem size of the actual thing, it's 2x2. I thought it was going to go up to 3x3 or 4x4 or something, but actually it's just the creatures that you place inside of the zone that actually link to the totem. That size is a little bit bigger, so 10x10 to 14x14. And this exclusion zone is basically, I think, the ring around it where they will kite back. So basically this got reduced, the placement size got increased, and the health increased. So basically buffs across the board to the totem, which is nice. It's a new thing. You can only use 2 of them, so they should be pretty good. And yeah, it'll just make them even better for whatever people are using them for. My castle's been winning even more now that the totems got increased, and also the nerfs that came to the heroes. So I'll talk about these. There's some really crazy changes. Actually, these aren't the balance changes. This is basically just bug fixes for the most part. Certain hero skills didn't work on totems. I remember trying to drop bear traps on totems throughout the week, and it wasn't dealing damage because I was trying to burst them down so I could forward kite. Same basic concept. I think bear traps are still going to be a little strong against totems because if you put a totem in a corner and the person can launch all 3 or 4 bear traps on that totem, it's going to deal a ton of damage, and you'll probably just be able to drop it. And since it's an instant cast, you don't have to wait for an animation, so you can pretty much continue dodging everything and then continue to forward kite. So that's going to be maybe a problem. I'm sure that bear traps are going to probably be something on the devs list to take a look at, because they might be a little bit strong right now. Heroes. So the Knight currently, in my opinion, is the strongest character after these changes. He got basically straight buffs, and for the most part he was already pretty strong. I think he was on the same level as, Knights with good gear were on the same level as other characters anyway. So these were unused skills, well, not charge. Charge is used pretty often. But that's not that big of a change. It's just slightly longer charge. Lashing Flames increased. That's fine. It actually, I think what they're trying to do is there's initiate spells for everybody, and it seems like what they're trying to do is make them all 10 meters across the board, which is okay, I guess. I mean, it's just the way that they're trying to balance things. I don't know. I again still will say that the Fireball and now the Volley cast range both are a little bit extreme, and I think going from 17 to 10, same as whatever the other one was, I think it was around the same, 17 to 10. They should have went and took it into more of a middle zone where it's 12 to 14 on both Fireball and Volley, I think. Probably 12 would be fine, but I think 10 is just a little bit too low, but that's my personal opinion. Volley damage reduced. I'm not too worried about this. Volley has been strong for a while, so they just keep nerfing it. Basically taking the same route as Vortex. The last 2 patches, Volley was reduced, and the last 3 Vortex has been nerfed. So Vortex Rift not dealing any damage anymore is actually just completely crazy. I don't even know how to feel about this right now. They were talking about lowering the cooldown on it. I'm not sure if that would actually make it better or not. Personally, I would rather it have damage than have a lower cooldown, because the stun on monsters is going to be insane if you get a lower cooldown on Vortex Rift. But at the same time, it doesn't deal damage, so it's kind of a toss-up. Right now, this Vortex Rift, everybody probably should just remove this ability until they either lower the cooldown or bring damage back. Well, it needs something though. This is a little bit too much of a nerf, I would say. especially with Fireball being nerfed anyway. Really, you would just Vortex. Like, the damage wasn't that significant on Vortex anyway, but the fact that you could Vortex and use a Fireball to finish things off. But since that got nerfed on in terms of range, then I mean, I don't even know what mages will use anymore to replace it, because I haven't played a ton of the mage, even though I'm starting to level mine up, and I'd like to kind of maybe switch it to a main character. I don't know. I was going to, but that's when I thought that mages were the strongest character. I was leveling it up so I could play it. But at this point, I think it's the knight, and then both the archer and actually the runaway is not in a terrible spot now, because the archer and the mage got brought down so low a level that it kind of brought the runaway up by itself. And they keep getting buffs and buffs after each patch, and I'm noticing more and more that a few of the runaways that are being played at level 30 are actually getting through my castle fairly easily. So the runaway, I would say, is starting to become a class that you can actually play. I'm personally not a big fan of the style of the runaway. I probably won't pick that up as a class. I mean, it might happen. I'm not going to say that it won't. I do own her, but I don't like the low amounts of AoE that she has, and I don't really like her playstyle. I'd probably prefer the knight over the runaway, to be honest. But I definitely prefer the other two. I like ranged characters for the most part. So that's pretty much it. Vortex is just completely useless at this point, I think. It definitely needs something more to go with it, either a cooldown reduction or damage increase. I would prefer damage, but if cooldown... Oh, there is something that I should mention. There's a bug right now, and I'm not sure if it got hotfixed. I tested it when the patch first came out, like within the first hour, and Vortex can move units, but if you initiate with Vortex, it doesn't actually aggro the group because it doesn't deal damage. This was something that happened right at the beginning of the patch. I have not tested it since then, so it's been like 12 hours since the patch came out, so they may have already hotfixed it. But you can technically, if you want to waste the time, you can move creatures into a corner of the room and then just run past them and skip the entire creature, the entire like castle of creatures. Any creature, you can just kind of skip it, and then you combine that with like trap disable, and you might be able to just get through castles, but it would take you forever because Vortex has a really long cooldown. So if they shorten the cooldown and they don't actually fix that, that would be ridiculous. I don't think that should be in the game. That's just silly. That's like completely pointless. If you can completely skip monsters, people just make full trap castles again. So that's that for balancing. Um, I definitely think knights are in a really good spot right now. I don't have my knight level there. I'd probably play it, but with the health increases and everything like that, like 8,500 hit points is really hard to get through. And then the other characters being nerfed kind of brings this up more. So I think personally knight, followed by probably the archer now, and then mages. Runaways probably are on par with the archer or um, slightly ahead, and then mages are slightly below archer and runaway, probably just because Vortex was such a crucial skill for them. But they still have the best trap disable. It's just, how are they really supposed to kill masses of creatures right now? I don't really know. Thunderclap is okay. I haven't played around with it enough to know if it's worthwhile. I've seen it a couple of times, but I think it's mostly used for the stun and not for the AoE damage, but I'm not 100% on that. I haven't played the mage enough to figure that out. Let's jump into my castle though. We're going to take a look at the new creature, which is the Ram Bomb. So I guess I'll go over this real quick. Let me bring this back up. So this is the Ram Bomb. He takes 40 eagle feathers. I think everybody has a ton of these things. They haven't been used for really anything. Maybe they were used for the Devlin. I don't remember. Same as this was used for the Devlin, but I have a ton of this. And then Love, I've actually been farming a lot of this because I've been looking for number 42, and I keep finding Love instead. So I have like 14 of these, maybe 12 now because I bought one of these guys. So it's not the worst materials, I don't think, that I've seen yet, because it's the easier of the two epic materials. But yeah, he's a 14 defense rating, very high defense rating, fires a lot of grenades that detonate after a short delay. Watch your back. So let's jump into my castle and take a look at what this guy does, and talk about if he's any good or not. Alright, so we'll jump in with my archer. So very high point cost is something that you really have to think about, because if you're looking at a creature that's already very good, like the Devlin, who does anywhere between 400 and 600 damage per attack, and has an AoE to it just like a grenade would, but it's a little bit lower on the hit point side. But you can have 3.5, a little bit over 3.5 of those. Math at this hour that I'm recording this video at isn't really gonna work. It's more than that. It's 4. 4 is 16 points. I don't know. 3. No, 4 is 12 points. 5. You can have roughly 5 Devlins, I think. I don't know. It's actually like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, something like that right now. I'm recording this video and then I'm going to sleep, so don't ask me to do math at this point. But yeah, you can afford a lot of Devlins, is what I'm saying, and they do this guy does a little bit more damage than a Devlin, but his attack is, you know, it's okay. The attack itself is okay. The fact that he launches 3 bombs in a smaller room, and I believe they like bounce off things just a little bit, would make it reasonably hard to dodge in a small room like this. If he point blanks you like he did there, really good damage. He can hit you with 2 or 3 of those bombs, and that adds up quite a bit. But if you only get hit by 1, or if you dodge the bombs effectively, then he's not going to be very good. I personally don't like this guy a ton. I probably will buy 1 or 2 of him, and I don't know if I'll use him in my castle, because he's just such high point cost that there's not much you can use with him. It's okay, you know, it's not the worst. He does have a decent amount of hit points, and I guess he has a block chance as well, that like archers do, so that's kind of cool, but I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of him. He does okay. I mean, he's not as bad as I think like the Rancid Runner or the initial version of General Pao. I don't think he's quite as bad as those two, but he's not as good as like the Devlin. I think anytime you want to use this guy, like the Devlin, you'll want to use like 3, or this guy, the I don't remember, Rambam I think is what his name is. Anytime you want to use this, you'd probably want to use like 3 Devlins and a Defendatron in its place almost every time, because the Devlins will be able to actually target towards the hero, whereas these bombs go, you know, 1, 2, 3. So one of them is usually only going to hit you, if one does hit you. Whereas the other guy, the Devlin, actually targets towards the attacker. And the reason why I'm comparing the two is because they're very similar attacks. They do similar damage and they do similar AoE. So that's basically my thoughts on this guy. That's pretty much it for the patches today. I don't know when or if I'm going to rebuild this castle. It's been doing a little bit better today since the patch went through. I'm not really sure. I don't have any crazy ideas. The only thing I would do would probably try to remake kind of like a condensed castle with totems. That's the only thing that I'm really thinking about. So I'll probably spend a couple of days running some viewer castle episodes and see what other people have come up with for the most part. So, you know, if you have viewer castle requests and you have a totem castle ready, if you want to just email me at frenzycastleruns@hotmail.com, I'll be able to get into those over the course of like the next day or two, basically. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.